Drainage, one of the most fundamental processes shaping the surface of the earth, yet it is often understood only in simple terms as the removal of excess water from land. In reality, it is a vast, interconnected system that operates through natural forces, geological structures, climatic conditions, and human interventions. It influences landscapes, ecosystems, agriculture, urban development, and even human health. To fully understand drainage, it must be seen not as a single concept but as a continuous story of water movement across and beneath the Earth's surface, a story that begins with rainfall and ends in oceans, lakes, or underground reservoirs, while shaping everything in between. In agriculture, drainage is the artificial removal of excess water from land to improve crop production. It is essential for reclaiming wetlands, preventing erosion, and supporting irrigation in dry regions. Effective drainage avoids nutrient leaching and surface water accumulation, which allows for earlier planting in the spring. There are two main categories of drainage systems: surface and subsurface. Surface systems remove water from the soil surface using field ditches and drains, which is crucial for soils with slow water absorption. Subsurface systems, also known as tile systems, use underground laterals to remove water, promoting better root development and soil balance. Both methods require careful planning based on factors such as soil type, rainfall, and crop types to ensure effective water removal and maximize crop yield. Drainage is important in agriculture for the artificial removal of excess water from land. It is employed to prevent erosion, reclaim wetlands, and is essential with irrigation in dry regions. Drainage prevents standing water and leaching of nutrients, and it also allows for earlier spring planting. There are two categories of drainage systems: surface and subsurface. Surface drainage is the only option for soils that absorb water slowly. Subsurface drainage removes water from the soil, which allows plants to develop a greater mass of soil for root development. Salt accumulation on farmlands is a serious agricultural problem, and drainage is needed on irrigated lands to control the water table and keep salts from accumulating in the root zone. Poor drainage negatively impacts plant growth by creating an environment where roots can't get enough oxygen. Roots need air from subsurface water, and when plants absorb too much water, they can essentially drown. High soil moisture encourages destructive water mold fungi to develop, which can lead to root rot. Conversely, low soil moisture can also be detrimental, increasing the severity of diseases like charcoal rot. Unfavorable aeration in poorly drained areas also restricts root development and limits water use in the subsoil. Furthermore, excess water-soluble salts from poor drainage can build up in the soil, leading to leaf scorching, stunted growth, and dieback of shoots and roots. Common methods used to drain farmland include surface and subsurface systems. Surface drainage involves channels like parallel drains and random drains to remove water from the soil surface. Subsurface drainage, often a tile system, uses underground conduits to lower the water table, promoting better root development and soil conditions. Mole drainage, creating unlined underground channels, is another technique, sometimes enhanced with perforated plastic liners for increased longevity. Land grading is essential for shaping the field to slope towards drainage channels. These drainage methods are crucial for reclaiming wetlands, controlling water tables in irrigated areas, and increasing food production. Farmers consider several factors to select the right drainage system for their land. Soil type is crucial. Sandy or silty soils often suit subsurface drainage, while clay-rich soils typically need surface systems. Land topography, rainfall patterns, and the types of crops also play significant roles. There are two main categories of drainage systems: surface and subsurface. Surface systems are essential for soils that absorb water slowly, utilizing ditches to remove water. Subsurface systems, also known as tile systems, offer better drainage by removing water from a greater depth, promoting root development and soil warming. The choice between uniform or random lateral arrangements in subsurface systems depends on the crop, soil, and precipitation. Agricultural drainage, while beneficial for land reclamation and preventing erosion, can have adverse environmental effects. Drainage systems may lead to concentrated salts in drainage effluent because of evapotranspiration. Additionally, the oxidation of organic matter in drained soils increases, which results in land subsidence. While drainage is essential for agriculture in many regions, these potential environmental impacts need careful consideration. In geomorphology, drainage systems, also known as river systems, are the patterns formed by the streams, rivers, and lakes in a particular drainage basin. They are governed by the topography of land, whether a particular region is dominated by hard or soft rocks, and the gradient of the land. Geomorphologists and hydrologists often view streams as part of drainage basins and subbasins. This is the topographic region from which a stream receives runoff, through flow, and its saturated equivalent, groundwater flow. The number, size, and shape of the drainage basins varies, and the larger and more detailed the topographic map, the more information is available. The origin of drainage lies deep in the natural evolution of the earth itself. Over millions of years, water has interacted with rock, soil, vegetation, and gravity to carve out pathways across landscapes. When rain falls on the ground, it does not remain stationary. It begins to move, pulled downward by gravity. Some of it flows over the surface, forming small rills that gradually join to create streams. Others seep into the soil, moving downward to become groundwater. Over time, these small flows organize themselves into larger systems known as drainage networks. These networks eventually form rivers and tributaries that define entire drainage basins. The shape and structure of these systems are not random but are controlled by natural conditions such as slope, rock type, rainfall intensity, and vegetation cover. Human beings later became part of this natural system and began modifying it for their own needs. Early civilizations quickly recognized the importance of controlling water. In regions such as Mesopotamia, the Nile Valley, and the Indus Valley, societies built canals and ditches to redirect water for farming and to prevent destructive flooding. These early drainage systems were simple but highly effective for their time, allowing agriculture to expand and settlements to grow. Over centuries, these basic methods evolved into complex engineering systems that now include underground pipes, stormwater drains, reservoirs, and artificial channels designed to manage water in both rural and urban environments. The types of drainage systems that exist today reflect both natural processes and human design. In nature, drainage patterns describe how rivers are arranged across a landscape. Some regions display dendritic patterns that resemble tree branches, forming where the land is relatively uniform and erosion occurs evenly. Other regions show trellis patterns where rivers flow parallel between ridges of resistant rock and join at right angles. Radial patterns develop around central high points such as volcanic cones, with water flowing outward in all directions. Rectangular patterns occur where rocks are heavily fractured, guiding streams along straight paths. Parallel patterns form in steep landscapes where rivers flow side by side. These natural patterns reveal how deeply drainage is connected to the structure of the earth itself. Human-designed drainage systems, on the other hand, are built with specific goals in mind. Surface drainage removes water that accumulates on the ground using slopes, channels, or open ditches. Subsurface drainage removes water from below the soil using buried pipes or tile systems, especially in agricultural land where water logging can reduce crop yields. Urban drainage systems are designed to handle stormwater runoff in cities, using gutters, sewers, and retention basins. Each type serves a different purpose, but all are connected by the same basic principle of controlling water movement. One of the key ways to understand drainage is by considering its size. A drainage basin, sometimes called a watershed or catchment area, is the total land area from which a river system collects water. These basins vary enormously in scale. Some are tiny, feeding small streams, while others, like the Amazon or Nile basins, cover millions of square kilometers and support vast networks of rivers and tributaries. The size of a drainage system affects how quickly water responds to rainfall, how much sediment it carries, and how it influences surrounding ecosystems. Large basins tend to have more stable flow patterns, while smaller basins respond rapidly to storms and may experience sudden flooding or drying. Drainage systems also evolve continuously over time. Rivers are not fixed features, they shift, erode, deposit, and reshape the land as they flow. In upper regions, rivers tend to cut deeply into the land, forming narrow valleys through vertical erosion. In middle regions, they begin to meander, eroding sideways and creating wider valleys. In lower regions, they deposit sediments, forming floodplains and deltas. These processes slowly transform landscapes, creating fertile plains that have historically supported human civilization. At the same time, they can also create hazards, as rivers change course or overflow their banks. The consequences of drainage systems are both beneficial and harmful depending on how they function and how they are managed. One of their most important roles is flood prevention. By transporting excess water away from land surfaces, drainage systems reduce the risk of water accumulation that could damage crops, homes, and infrastructure. Proper drainage also improves soil quality by preventing water logging, which allows plant roots to access oxygen and nutrients. In natural ecosystems, drainage helps maintain wetlands, rivers, and floodplains that support biodiversity and ecological balance. These environments depend on periodic water movement to remain productive and diverse. However, drainage can also create serious problems when it is poorly managed or excessively altered. Rapid removal of water in urban areas can increase downstream flooding because water is concentrated and discharged too quickly into rivers. Agricultural drainage, while increasing productivity, can degrade soil over time by reducing moisture retention and organic content. In extreme cases, lowering the water table through drainage can cause land subsidence, where the ground slowly sinks. This makes regions more vulnerable to future flooding and structural damage. Another major consequence of drainage is its influence on water quality. As water flows through agricultural fields, cities, and industrial zones, it collects pollutants such as fertilizers, pesticides, oils, heavy metals, and waste materials. These substances are transported through drainage networks into rivers and lakes, affecting aquatic ecosystems. Nutrient pollution can lead to eutrophication, where excessive algae growth depletes oxygen in the water and harms fish and other organisms. This demonstrates how drainage systems act not only as physical channels for water but also as carriers of environmental change. Drainage is also closely tied to climate and weather patterns. In regions with heavy rainfall, drainage systems must handle large volumes of water in short periods. In arid regions, drainage may be minimal or intermittent, with rivers flowing only after rare storms. Some channels remain dry for most of the year, becoming active only during sudden rainfall events that produce intense flash floods. Climate change is now altering these patterns, increasing the frequency of extreme rainfall in some areas while intensifying droughts in others. This creates additional pressure on drainage systems, many of which were not designed for such variability. Geology plays an equally important role in shaping drainage behavior. Permeable rocks such as sandstone allow water to infiltrate, reducing surface runoff, while impermeable rocks such as clay or granite encourage water to flow over the surface. Limestone regions may develop underground drainage systems, where water flows through caves and aquifers instead of visible rivers. Tectonic movements can also influence drainage by uplifting land, creating slopes, or redirecting river courses. Over long geological periods, these forces continuously reshape drainage systems, demonstrating that they are never static. Human activity has become one of the most powerful influences on drainage in modern times. Urbanization replaces natural soil and vegetation with impermeable surfaces such as concrete and asphalt. This prevents infiltration and increases surface runoff, making cities more prone to flooding. To manage this, engineers construct complex drainage networks, but these systems can become overwhelmed during heavy storms. In many rapidly growing cities, drainage infrastructure has not kept pace with expansion, leading to frequent flooding and water stagnation. Agriculture also modifies drainage significantly. Wetlands and poorly drained lands are often converted into farmland through artificial drainage systems. While this improves crop production, it can reduce natural water storage capacity and alter groundwater levels. Over time, intensive drainage can degrade soil structure and reduce long-term fertility. In addition, agricultural runoff can carry chemicals into nearby water bodies, affecting ecosystems far beyond the farmland itself. Drainage systems also interact strongly with erosion and sediment transport. As water moves through landscapes, it erodes soil and rock, transporting sediments downstream. This process shapes valleys, floodplains, and deltas. In upper river courses, erosion dominates, cutting deep channels into the land. In lower courses, deposition becomes more important, creating fertile plains and delta regions. These areas are often densely populated because of their agricultural productivity, but they are also vulnerable to flooding and environmental change. Wetlands are one of the most important natural components of drainage systems. They act as buffers that absorb excess water, filter pollutants, and support biodiversity. However, wetlands are often drained for agriculture or urban development. This reduces the natural ability of landscapes to manage water and increases flood risk. It also destroys habitats that are essential for many species. The loss of wetlands is therefore one of the most significant environmental impacts of human alteration of drainage systems. Drainage systems also influence groundwater recharge. When water infiltrates into the soil, it replenishes underground aquifers that provide fresh water for drinking and irrigation. If drainage is too rapid, less water enters the ground, reducing groundwater availability. If drainage is too slow, water may accumulate on the surface, causing water logging. Maintaining a balance between surface runoff and infiltration is essential for sustainable water management. The concept of drainage density helps explain how quickly a landscape responds to rainfall. High drainage density means many streams are closely spaced, leading to rapid runoff and higher flood risk. Low drainage density indicates fewer streams and greater infiltration, resulting in slower water movement. This concept is important for predicting flood behavior and managing water resources effectively. Seasonal variation adds another layer of complexity. In many regions, rivers change dramatically between wet and dry seasons. During wet periods, they may overflow and deposit nutrient-rich sediments across floodplains. During dry periods, they may shrink or disappear entirely. This natural variability supports ecosystems adapted to changing water conditions but poses challenges for human settlement and infrastructure. Drainage systems also have economic importance. Effective drainage reduces damage from floods, supports agriculture, and protects infrastructure such as roads and buildings. Poor drainage, on the other hand, can lead to significant economic losses due to flood damage, crop failure, and infrastructure collapse. Investing in drainage infrastructure is therefore essential for economic stability and development. Public health is another area strongly influenced by drainage. Poor drainage can lead to stagnant water, which becomes a breeding ground for mosquitoes and other disease vectors. It can also contribute to the spread of waterborne diseases in areas with inadequate sanitation. Proper drainage is therefore closely linked to disease prevention and overall community health. In recent years, sustainable drainage approaches have emerged as a response to environmental and urban challenges. These systems aim to mimic natural processes by slowing down water flow, increasing infiltration, and storing water temporarily. Techniques such as green roofs, permeable pavements, rain gardens, and restored wetlands are increasingly being used to manage stormwater more effectively. These approaches not only reduce flood risk but also improve water quality and support biodiversity. Technological advancements have also improved drainage management. Modern tools such as geographic information systems, satellite imaging, and computer modeling allow engineers to analyze drainage patterns in detail and predict how systems will respond to rainfall. Smart drainage systems equipped with sensors can monitor water levels in real time and adjust flow control mechanisms accordingly. These innovations represent a shift toward more adaptive and data-driven water management strategies. Despite these advancements, drainage systems remain vulnerable to failure if not properly maintained. Blockages caused by waste, especially plastics, are a major problem in many urban areas. Even well-designed systems can fail if drains are not regularly cleaned. Public awareness and proper waste management are therefore essential components of effective drainage. In rural areas, challenges are often different but equally important. Agricultural runoff, soil erosion, and deforestation can all affect drainage systems and water quality. Poor land management practices increase sedimentation in rivers, reducing their capacity and increasing flood risk. Sustainable farming practices such as contour plowing, reforestation, and buffer zones can help reduce these impacts. From a geological perspective, drainage systems are constantly evolving. Rivers may change course, merge, split, or even be captured by other systems over long periods of time. Entire drainage basins can be reorganized through processes such as erosion and tectonic uplift. This long-term evolution shows that drainage is part of a dynamic Earth system that is always changing. In conclusion, drainage is far more than a simple process of removing water from land. It is a complex and dynamic system that connects geology, climate, ecosystems, and human society. It originates from natural processes but is heavily influenced by human activity. It exists in many forms, from small local streams to vast global river systems, and it shapes the landscape continuously through erosion, transport, and deposition. Its benefits include flood control, agricultural productivity, water supply, and ecosystem support, while its challenges include flooding, pollution, environmental degradation, and infrastructure stress. Understanding drainage in its full depth is essential for managing water resources sustainably and ensuring a balance between human development and environmental stability. Thank you for watching this video.